Welcome to G Woman Voices of Influence series, where we spotlight women whose work, whose voice, and whose impact are shaping the future. I'm your host, Clara Rufai. And now my guest today is a woman who brings together creativity, performance, and well-being, helping organizations not only deliver powerful experiences, but also create environments where people can truly thrive. The woman of influence we're celebrating today is none other than Rita Okoye, also known as RiRi. Now, a quick bit of information about Rita. Rita Okoye, affectionately known as RiRi, is an event marketing expert and a well-being advocate. She's dedicated to helping people thrive at work and flourish in life. She began her career at the BBC, where she spent 8 years leading high-impact campaigns and delivering memorable events. She went on to found Majestically Rare, a consultancy through which she has delivered corporate events across Africa and Europe, working with global brands, including JP Morgan and the Bank of America. Alongside her work in events, Rita is a certified happiness coach, and she's the host of the Happiness Growth podcast. Her work sits at the intersection of performance and well being, ensuring that success is achieved without burnout and that people feel seen, supported, and energized. Rita, I am very pleased to have you on Voices of Influence today. Welcome.
Thank you, Clara. Thanks for having me. Nice to see
Amazing.
you.
Lovely to see you too, Rita. Amazing. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about
Great.
your origin moment, right? And I want to ask you, Rita, now your journey from the BBC into building your own consultancy is, I find it really inspiring. And I want to know
Mm.
what inspired that transition for you? And at what point did you start to realize that success doesn't have to be about just performance and results, but also it needs to be about well being and how people can actually experience their work.
Okay. So there are two parts to this. The
Yeah.
first part is what has inspired me was actually moving to Lagos. I spent about 14 years in Lagos and I was surrounded by
Lagos,
go-getters.
Nigeria.
Lagos, Nigeria, yes, not Portugal. So yes, I was surrounded by go-getters. I was surrounded by women that were really doing amazing things. I was going to empowerment events. I was just watching and seeing how people were building their own businesses, and that inspired me. And I just thought to myself, they don't have 10 heads, you know. So by watching them, observing, that's what led me to start my own business, Majestically Rare.
Amazing. Amazing. Well done. I mean, that was I know about your business and I know that
Yes.
you did a lot of good work with it. And I want to ask you, usually on this program, we ask the people we're speaking to, the women we're speaking to, what is the influence behind the influencer, the influencer behind the influencer? So I want to ask you, you've built a strong presence across both events and well-being, and also as a voice in this space, right? You're recognized as a voice, but who or what would you say has influenced the way that you show up today? I mean, not just in your work, but also in your confidence to speak, to share, to amplify your voice. And why does using your voice in this way matter?
Okay, so there were two people I would say that have really inspired me. The first one was my mentor, Udo Okonjo. She's the CEO of Fine and Country. So she set up a movement called I Wow, Inspired Women of Worth. And when I was in that movement, I learned about possibilities, about, stepping out. So before that, I hadn't done a lot of things, but hearing a lot of that message and showing up in the world, being bold and confident led me to do so many things. I started a movement called Raising Confident Girls. There was by the end of it, there was about 33,000 members. I had my own radio show in Nigeria. I was sponsored by big banks like First Bank of Nigeria and FCMB. So,
Hmm,
just having that message of possibilities just made me step out. And the second person is my husband. My husband is my champion. He is always the one that says, Rita, you've got this, you can do it, you can do it. So having those type of people around me really helped me to step out.
amazing. And that's impactful work you've done throughout. So kudos on that. But Rita, I want to ask you directly, right? Do you think that perhaps we've normalized burnout as being part of success? And what needs to change regarding that?
I think, yes, I think that we have normalized it. I think that we have to start looking at the data. The data around the world is showing that there are more people suffering from burnout, and there companies are just not putting things in place. I'm a consultant and I go around different companies. Some are, but a lot of them aren't. So you have to look at the data. You have to look at things like sickness. What is causing sickness? Is it because people are just overworking, And when I look back to a few years before I got into the corporate, into consultancy, when I started my career in the BBC, we were working, we were networking, we were going out more. But I find that nowadays we're sitting at the desk a lot more. We're not getting up, we're not networking, and just being fixed on joining teams and just sitting at a desk and just working so many long hours is not good for us. So I think that leaders have to really look at the data. I can't hear you.
And just to make sure that I can be heard loud and
I
clear.
can hear you now, yes.
Amazing, amazing. So I need to ask you, based on what you just said, what would you say to the woman who is succeeding but exhausted?
When she's succeeding and she's exhausted, she has to pause, and she has to remember that she only has one life. And at the end of the day, if she keeps working and working and something happens to her, she's going to be replaced. So you have to think about yourself, think about what's important to you, and health is wealth, So I think that she needs to pause and remember that she is valuable.
Pause, remember you're valuable, show self love, take the time you need to rest and
That's
to
right.
rejuvenate yourself. Amazing. And we have a commenter who says women have had a hard time setting limits. They feel that they have to take on too much to prove themselves. Isn't that the truth? And we just
That's
need to be
correct.
kinder to ourselves. And Misty Dong also says, kudos to the husbands championing their wives and their dreams.
That's right.
It teaches both our young men and women, so well done. Well done. Thank you for those comments. Keep them coming. And the Good Radio Network also says, companies forget that families don't stop when we go through their door. There's a life outside of work and outside
There
of
is.
success, as you would say. And we have another comment from Zen Jane. Zen Jane says, wow, what an incredible story. Believing in yourself and the possibility is such an important element of making dreams a reality. Isn't that the
That
truth?
belief is so important, honestly.
That
Believing
is
in
so,
yourself.
so true. And I want to talk to you next, Rita, about impact and transformation. And I do want to know, you've delivered events across continents, Europe, Africa. You've worked with major global brands. But beyond the events themselves, what is that transformation that you, as a person, you create? Not just in the experiences that you design, but in how organizations think about performance and well-being. By that I mean, what is the difference between an event that simply looks good and an event that truly connects and leaves a lasting impact?
Okay. So an event that leaves a lasting impact, the first thing that you have to think about is, what does success look like, And once you have that clear understanding of what your event looks like, you can start building. I come across companies that they just want to do the event, but they haven't built the story, they haven't built the brand. And we know from business is that people people come to you when they know you, like you, trust you. So building
Mhm.
that brand, building the story, and even in the event, it's not just the event itself, it's the whole customer journey. It's the
Mhm.
beginning, when you're sending out invites, it's the event itself, and it's the aftermath. Because even the aftermath, we have lessons learned. A lot of the times, companies do events and they send out all this information, but really, are you transforming the event because of what your customer is saying? So we really have to put the customer at the heart of everything that we do and make sure that
Mhm.
we're listening to what they want.
Mhm. And so, if I ask, what's that one thing that people should focus on when they are curating events? Your answer would be?
listen to the customer.
I agree.
Yes,
And that is so powerful. That is so critical for you to hear the customer and give the customer the experience that they desire. Because that's what makes them rave about you, right? And about the
that's right.
experience.
They become your brand ambassadors. They tell other people. They come
Mm-hmm,
back to events, and that's actually happened. That's been my story. When I
mm-hmm.
listen to customers, when I create the events that they need, they're the ones that do all my marketing for me. So when I was running events, business growth events, that's what I was doing. I was really intentional about making sure that the customers were getting what they wanted. So after the event, they would just show up on social media. Oh, I just went to Rita Okoye's high impact business growth workshop. And then I would just kept building onto that because they were my champions. So we
I
always
know.
have to put
And I
customers.
know your work, your events are truly high impact events.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Misty Dong says, the
Thank
customer
you.
may not always be right, but they must be listened to.
They must be listened to. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. Um, and Sylvia says it is also important to determine what is the objective of the event. That is so true too. That is so true. And Bits by Cheese says great advice. I think your comments and what you're saying is really resonating with people. And Dorothy Otite says, listen to the customer. What you just said there, she's
Yes.
repeating. So amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. I want to talk about, the Good Radio Network says, don't stop the event at the end of the event. Make sure you take stock of the aftermath. What did
That's
they
right.
learn?
So
What did they
important.
like? Very, very powerful comments. Keep those comments coming, ladies. We're having fun. We're having you
Yes, we are.
listen to us, interact with us. So let's take the conversation somewhere else. Let's talk about your signature superpower for a bit. Because I
Right.
know that every woman of influence, right, has a superpower. And so I want to ask you, Rita, when you walk into a project or you walk into a room, what is that first thing that you bring that makes the difference? What would you say is your secret sauce, when it comes to delivering results without burning people out in the process?
Well, a lot of people say, and I agree, is that my calm presence. When you have a calm presence, you actually allow people to feel confident in you because you're not panicked. You're not going
Mm.
around the event like, oh, what's going on? So when I come in, I am calm, I'm smiling, and that does a lot of the time give people confidence.
I know that if I was working with an event manager and they were calm and smiling, it would definitely make the whole process of working with them more enjoyable and more memorable as well. So well
Yes.
done. That's a superpower, a great superpower to have. And I want to ask you next, talking about the power of amplification, because amplification is a big word these days. And at G Woman Media, we are really intentional about amplifying women who are not just delivering results, but also we are intentional about reshaping what success looks like. So I want to ask you, Rita, how powerful is it when women lead in a way that prioritizes both performance and well being side by side?
When they show up excellent, excellent is their brand because a lot of people are not showing up excellent. So when they show up that
Mhm.
way, they become more confident. They show up, people see who they are. So I feel that that's one of my values: excellent, excellent in everything that I do, whether it's the way you dress, the way you speak, the way you show up, just always be excellent.
I totally agree with you on that one. And what shifts? What is that thing that would shift for an organization when they begin to see well being as part of performance and not something that is removed or separate from it?
I think the shift is in employee. What would I use the word now? Employees, just because their performance is better, they're loyal, they don't go on sick leave, they show up, they just become so committed to their work. So
Yeah,
when
yeah,
companies really, believe in well-being, this is the results that
yeah.
across
There's
board
that
show.
psychological safety at work, right?
That's
I
right.
agree.
Yes.
Yvonne Okafor says, yeah, I can testify that she's always calm in the midst of the storm and forever smiling. Great testimonies there. Zenjen says, yes, just seeing you in this conversation, you have a wonderful, calm, and grounded presence.
Thank you.
Wow, amazing comments. Misty Dawn says, calmness reassures. It does,
Yes.
doesn't it? Every woman
Because the
knows that
calmness
calmness
comes with
does.
confidence. For
Mm-hmm.
me, the calmness is because I've done so many events and because I've done so many lessons learned, you sort of have things can go wrong, but the calmness
Yeah.
is in that I've seen this before, I've done this before. I do a risk assessment. So I know that even if things, you know how events are, things
Yeah.
can go wrong. I have the
Yeah.
calmness to know that I can fix it or that my
Yeah.
team and I can fix it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to ask you a follow-up question on that. You are someone who's, confident. You even had an organization, if I can
That's
call it
right.
that, known as Raising Confident Girls.
That's
So
correct.
you were intentional about not just showing up as confident, but raising the next generation as being confident. So I want to then ask you, if you can share, what would you say to that woman who is still unsure of herself, who is holding back, who lacks the confidence to go for what she deserves?
I would say take baby steps. Do one small thing at a time. And
Yeah.
then, because when you do it and you see the results and see the impact that you're sharing to other people, that's when transformation happens.
Hmm.
So sometimes it is daunting at first, but don't think about yourself. Think about
Hmm.
what you can give to other people. So take yourself out of that equation and ask yourself, how can I help the other person? And once you do that, you will just fly. I have ladies, and some of them are watching, and they say to me, Rita, I want to write a book. I want to tell people about finance. I want to do this and that. I say, just do it. And, I've been having conversations with a lot of these ladies for the past 5 years, and you
Hmm.
just have to start. That is that's my voice to them. That's my
Hmm.
advice to them. Just do
And
it.
that is so true. I mean, when you're That's true. When you're heart centered about what you do, about giving service, about helping someone else be better, show up better, it shows in the
Yes,
quality of the work that you do. I kind of feel like this next question, you've started to touch on it a little bit, but if I can get you to be more direct, if every woman that's watching you today, especially those that are perhaps navigating high performance environments, if they could walk away with one belief, I want to ask you, Rita, what would you want them to hold on to regarding success, regarding well being, regarding even using their voice? What is that powerful message that you can leave for women that are listening here today?
I want her to first believe in herself. I also want her to prioritize her well-being because there's only one of her in this world. And I want her to use her voice to impact the world because the world needs to hear her. She is important. She does deserve it. She needs her light to shine. And she's going to transform and change lives. So that's what
Honestly,
I would say.
that is a good message. That really is a good message, and it will never get old because every woman needs to actually bring herself, put herself in the frame. She matters. She's worthy, and Dorothy is saying, "I love that Riri," or she loves what you just said about prioritizing herself, taking baby steps also, and then
That's right.
starting where you are. So don't worry about the finished picture. Trust the process. Take those baby steps. Think about who you're helping or
That's right.
who what value you can give. And Emma says, like the Nike slogan,
That's
just do
right.
it.
Yes.
Just do
Just
it.
do it.
Isn't that very powerful? Just do it,
And the thing
indeed.
about it is that when you start to do it, other people learn
Mhm.
from you. The people around me, there are people that said, "Oh,
Mhm.
I want to start a podcast," and they've gone
Yeah.
ahead to do it. "Oh, I want to write ebooks." So you become a voice, and people
Mhm.
around you also tap
Mhm.
into that too. So
Mhm. Mhm. And just one quick bonus that I want to pull out there, Rita, for the people who are listening. Let's come back to something that you sort of hinted at before. You've already mentioned it, right? About voice. And my question is, what changed for you personally the day you decided to really use your voice, and why does that matter?
what changed for me was just knowing that I'm impacting lives, and it
Mm.
matters because when you impact one person at a time, you are changing things. Like for example, when I'm doing Thrive at Work, Flourish at Life, and somebody comes to me and they have burnout, and then I go through the steps with them, and they recover from it, and they step out, and they're balanced. It's just change, and they come back and they say, Rita, you really changed my life. That really does touch me because I'm helping somebody.
Helping somebody, helping people changing lives. That's what it means. That's why it matters to you, for you to amplify your voice. Great stuff. Zenjan says, so true. Look at how you're making a difference to others. Takes the focus off of your fear and puts it on what you bring to others. It makes it so much easier to do it. And that's so true, because when the focus is not on you, when you're not me centric, nobody's saying don't love yourself, show self love. But when it comes to giving value around what you have to give the world, make sure that you're focused on that value, what you can give, how the world can be better because of you. And it totally reminds me of the very impactful work that we're doing at G Woman Media. Misty Dong also still says, I mean, it's also important that no matter how successful you are, you need to keep learning from every event you do, every event you do, every article you write, every sale you make. She says, never stop learning from yourself. Continued progress. Hashtag continued progress. The Good Radio Network says, we all tend to think we're the only ones that have a problem. But when we share, then we come to find that we are normal and we're not alone at all. You know, in terms of having problems or challenges, no one's special. They will always come, but it always is about the outlook and how, you know, the perspective. Perspective is everything. You know, perspective really is everything. Rita, I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for the knowledge that you've shared, the clarity with which you've shared, just the smile on your face, the calmness you brought into Voices of Influence today. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you, and I want to thank you for that. I want to say that what you've shared here today has been powerful. I feel like it's a timely conversation, because when we started out, we talked about how women have normalized burnout.
That's right.
I think it's part of success, but it does not have to be. So you've reminded us that, you know, success doesn't have to come at the expense of our personal well-being.
It doesn't have to.
Yes, and that it is possible to achieve, possible to lead and to grow without losing yourself totally in the process.
Correct.
And just as important, Rita, you've also shown us that the power of using your voice as an individual cannot be, you know, overemphasized. We have to shift how we think, don't we, as women? We have to shift how we work and how we lead. And then Zen Jen, I think I saw a comment pop up where she said, Zen Jen says, thank you, Rita, for your wisdom. Such a wonderful, inspirational interview. And I could not agree more. Sylvia Ashell says, thank you for a stimulating session. And I totally, totally agree. Thank you, ladies, for being here. Misty Dong says, thank you, Rita. You were awesome. Would love to attend one of your events. Now that is impact. That is how you
Watch out.
Yes, thank you for being here. And as we close, I do want to say, you know, to everyone listening and everyone who will listen after now, when a woman trusts herself, better believe that she transforms her life. And when she shares her voice, she transforms the world. And again, this has been the G Woman Media Voices of Influence, where women's voices are not just heard, but they are amplified, they're celebrated. I am Clara Rufai, your host. And until next time, when we come your way again, keep thriving, keep rising, and keep shining.
Thank you, Clara.